Do you want to learn how to take better drone landscape photography images, as well as how to better compose those images? Then keep watching, because that's what we're going to be doing in this tutorial. So when it comes to the gear that we're going to be using for this particular tutorial, or I'm going to be using a DJI Mavic 2 Pro, as well as some Polar Pro filters. Now these filters are soft graduated filters as well as polarizing filters, because today obviously we've got blue sky, white cloud up there, so if I find something that I really like, a really nice high up view, then that polarizing filter is going to really bring out the blue in the sky and then help to emphasize the clouds as well. And also don't forget to make sure you've got some fully charged batteries, because there's nothing worse than coming out fantastic scenery and landscape like this and finding that your batteries are low and uncharged. That's the last thing you want. What's next? Next thing is the settings that I'm going to be using on my drone. I'll just run you through those. What I want to do now is take you through the settings that I use on the DJI Mavic 2 Pro controller to show you how it is that I set the drone up to take the landscape photography images that I do. Pretty much the same as what I would use when I'm using a regular digital SLR, but in any case I'm just going to switch from me to a screen grab of the controller so you can see what it is that I'm doing. So this is the DJI Mavic 2 controller. This is the screen that you will see if you've never had a drone before. This is what you're going to get before you set up your drone. So if I tap on the bottom right hand corner, you'll see there's 3 lines and an M, so let's tap on there. Now this basically is the different modes, such as you would have on your dial on a digital SLR. I've got it on M for manual. The ISO, I always wanted it 100, because that's, for me, what I have found is the cleanest file that I can get. Even at ISO 200, I find it's just, the quality is just not as good as I really want it to be. The aperture, I always set the aperture somewhere between 2.8 and 4.0. Anything above that, maybe f5.6 at a push, but 2.8 to 4, what I found with the Mavic 2 Pro is the cleanest and sharpest images that I found so far. The shutter speed, that will absolutely depend on what it is that you're shooting, the time of day you're shooting, the subject you're shooting. It's not like when we're shooting movies and we have to use the 180 rule. The shutter speed will be the shutter speed will be. Moving on to the next menu, if I tap to the right of that aperture there, here comes the camera menu. So photo, I've got this set at single shot right now. That's all I'm using, that's all I really need. Image size, you can select between 3:2 and 16:9. I prefer 3:2, that's just my own personal preference. Image format, I want RAW, I don't want anything else, not even JPEG and RAW. I personally don't see the point in JPEG and RAW. Some people do, I personally don't. It takes up more space and valuable space when I'm out and about, so RAW for me. Going down, white balance. I set it at auto white balance, as it gives me a good start of a 10 is where I want to be with my white balance in my photographs. As we are shooting RAW, we can adjust it later on in the digital workstation. So with the RAW image there, we can do pretty much what we need to when it comes to the white balance. Style, I set to none. Color, normal. Again, we're working with a RAW file, so it doesn't really matter at this stage. To the right of that camera icon, you've got another settings button. So if we go in there, the settings that I'm interested in showing you here are the histogram. So you'll see that here. So I want the histogram turned on, because like your digital SLRs that you might be using, or your mirrorless cameras, the histogram is invaluable. If I scroll down, the other things that I'm interested in, or one of the other things I'm interested in, is the grid. I like to have the grid on, so if I want to, if I feel like it, using the rule of thirds, I can use the grid lines to help me compose the image, and we will be seeing some of that later on during this tutorial. That's pretty much it. That's the settings that I use for my Mavic 2 Pro when it comes to setting up the images for landscape photography, or indeed travel photography. Of course, one of the key things to think about when it comes to your drone landscape photography is the location. Now here, this is my local patch, so I know the area pretty well and I know some of the locations that I can use to my advantage when it comes to drone photography. But in this day and age, if it's an area that I don't really know, so for example, there's some areas of Italy that I might go to, or Japan, I can use the wonders of Google Maps or Bing Maps and bring up an aerial shot of a particular area and try to hunt around and find interesting things like mountainous roads and switchback roads in those mountains, all those types of things. Of course though, there is no excuse for not getting out there and having a recce yourself, getting around and seeing what is out there. Of course, as the seasons change, locations will change. Fields like the one behind me will be ploughed and will look completely different in the winter and the autumn, and of course this is now spring going into summer. So knowing the particular location that you want to go to and what it is that you want to get out of that location will always be the key to the success of the particular image that it is that you're trying to do. Before I get to the actual landscape photography images using the drone, what I just want to say is be very aware of the light that it is that you have. Personally, I always want the best light that I can. I don't just go out in any light. This evening, the light is really nice. It's quite changeable at times. The sun is going in and out behind the clouds, but the quality of light is there. It's the evening light. It's probably around 6 o'clock or so in the evening on a mid-May's day, so that quality of light is coming. It's been harsh for most of the day, but right now that quality of light that you want in your images is getting better and better as the sun goes down. So think about the light as part of your composition. It is an invaluable part of your composition. Too many times you see images that look really harsh. Always search out the best light that you can for your landscape and travel drone photography images. I promise you it will make all the difference. So enough talking to camera, let's get the drone up in the sky and start explaining how you can get some better drone photography images, as well as how you compose those landscape drone photography images. The first image that I want to demonstrate to you when it comes to drone landscape photography is a classic. It's a very straight road going through the middle of the image. Now that might be either horizontally, like a horizon, or diagonally from the bottom left to the top right hand corner, or the bottom right hand corner to the top left hand corner. Doesn't really matter which way the diagonal goes, each one is the same. I personally prefer the diagonal. I feel it's a much stronger compositional element. Make your mind up as which you prefer. What I would say is make sure that if you are going to do this type of scene, make sure that the woodland is actually far enough away from the edge of the road, but not so far that it loses what it is that you're trying to demonstrate. In any case, let's send the drone up. Let's show you a screenshot of what I'm doing on the drone so you can get an idea of what it is that I'm talking about, so you can try for yourselves if this is something that you've never done before. So now the drone is up in the air and we're looking down on the tree canopy and down straight down on the road, our top down or bird's eye view. You can see some of the things that I was talking about. The first thing to re-mention to everybody is the quality of light. Now you can see here the very low light that's coming across the tops of the trees. It's providing really nice side lighting. There's some nice shadow detail there on the road as well. It looks very, very nice. This is one particular way you could compose your top-down photograph of a road going through woodland, the road going from top to bottom. So let's just take that picture so you can see that particular compositional elements. That's one way you could do it. Let's turn the drone 90 degrees so that the road is actually going from side to side. Let's just turn that round. So if I just push the drone forward just a little bit. So there you can see again, it's okay. It looks kind of okay, but it's not really a very strong image. It's not the type of image that I would be after and really wanting to show you. But let's take it so you can compare three different images. So this is the road going straight through the middle, the horizon. And of course, as we've always been told, it doesn't really work putting the horizon in the middle. Now let's turn the drone 45 degrees or so, and then what you will see is a much stronger compositional element, which is the road going from the bottom left to the top right hand corner. Just before I turn the drone 45 degrees, I need to say to you that the sun is going in and out behind the clouds, so it's showing everything continuously a little bit frustrating. But in any case, I should be able to show you the difference between having this straight road here or having it go from corner to corner, which you will see is much stronger compositionally rather than having this straight road or straight horizon. So let's turn the drone 45 degrees. One more tip I would give to you is to go into full screen mode on the DJI app, if that's what you're using, as you'll find it's a lot easier to be able to line up the road into each corners. So let's just go to full screen mode, and then let's turn the drone 45 degrees. It doesn't matter which corner it goes in, but you will see the difference that it does make. Okay, so as I said, because full screen mode is on, we can more easily see where the road is. So it's not into each corner right now. So with full screen mode, I should be able to very finely turn my drone and get that. So what I'm looking for here compositionally is you'll see there's the white lines in the road. I hope and presume they're kind of in the middle of the road, but you'll see the difference now between having a road going straight through the middle, through what would be the horizon, or having the road going from corner to corner, looking at the corners of each image. So let's take that as a photograph. Let's open up the exposure just a little bit as the sun has gone behind a cloud. So I want to maximize as much information as I can. Just get rid of that warning there. So you'll see that the whites of the lines, the white lines in the road, they are pretty much going from corner to corner as best as roughly I can get them. Also bearing in mind the wind up there. So you will see, as I've opened up the exposure, that if I take that photograph there, how much difference it makes having the road going from corner to corner rather than, if I put it back again, going from one edge to the other, going across what would be a horizon. That's the first example. So let's move on to the next example in our landscape drone photography. So I've come out of the woodland where I was using the very straight road to show you how I use that road going from corner to corner to create a strong compositional element within my image to the open countryside. But I'm not going to use the open countryside as the next compositional tutorial. I'm actually going to use an orchard that's sitting behind the camera. Now I came here a few days ago, and as soon as I saw this orchard and what it could do in my image, I thought it would be great to show you how it is you can use those repeating lines of the orchard to make a really nice, strong compositional element within your images. So let's get the drone up and let's show you how those repeating lines of the orchard can actually create a really nice compositional element within your image, and why it is that I want to show you and how much difference it is going to make having those lines going diagonally again instead of vertically or horizontally. So this is the orchard that I was talking about that was behind the camera filming me in the open countryside. Now if I bring it down to full screen again, if I just adjust my drone, you can see I'm having to line everything up. This is why full screen is so much better to work with. So you can see there, that's how the lines look going horizontally across the image. It's okay, there's a bit of shadow detail there. There's some light raking across from the very low sun that I've got, but is it a very nice and really good looking image? Not really. So let's turn the drone and let's put those lines going diagonally across the image and see how much nicer it looks. This is actually me trying to create the image live, so you can see I'm not messing around, not trying to give you any fluff, but basically I'm trying to create the best image I can. So let's try and put those lines going 45 degrees across the image. So let's pull the drone up and across. No, it probably needs to come back over. Why? Because in the bottom right hand corner there were some lines that just did not work for me. So let's bring the drone down closer to the orchard. Let's fill the screen with the orchard, all of those lines of apples or pears, whatever they may be. Bring it down again, and probably something like that is what I would be looking for as a landscape and travel photographer. That, to me, when I look at that image, that looks a lot nicer, it looks a lot better composed, and that to me is the final image for this particular part of the tutorial. Let's take that, and I'll show the two images side by side at the end of this, so you can see the difference between having the lines going horizontally or diagonally. Does it work vertically? Just quickly, I'll show you. It's okay. So there you go, that's vertically. Does it really work? Let's bring the drone down so that the image, the orchard, fills the screen on either side. There you go. Which one works out of the three? Personally, I feel it is the diagonal. It is the stronger compositional element for this particular type of shot. For this next sequence, what I want to do is show you a slightly different view, as it were, of the top-down view or bird's eye view. So I'm going to send the drone up above the tree canopy of the plantation of trees that's behind me, but instead of having the drone basically parallel with the top of the trees, I'm going to angle the camera slightly down, so maybe some around 45 degrees or so. But what you're going to see is, instead of having a kind of a graphic sort of image at the top of the tree canopy, we're actually going to get something looking very different by having a very steep angle, very acute angle down onto that tree canopy. So I'm going to send the drone up and show you what it is that I mean, but I think what you're going to find is when you look at it, you're going to agree that by having a really nice sharp angle looking down, that you're going to have a really nice graphic looking image. Let's get that drone up in the sky, and just before I do that, I'm going to say I'm going to do another version of this really acute angle looking down on a subject, but in a more open space. So again, you can see the difference of looking straight down or actually having a really nice angle looking down. But let's get that drone up, then you can see what it is that I'm talking about, the tree canopy that's behind me. So I have the drone above the tree canopy, and this is your typical bird's eye view looking straight down. It's okay, it kind of looks a little bit graphic, but is it really more of a striking image than we've had before? It's not really. So let's just take a picture as a reference. Then what I'm going to do is maneuver the drone so that the camera is around 45 degrees or so down towards the canopy instead of a straight 90 degrees down. And then what you're going to see is a huge difference in what it is that we can do with a subject such as this. And this again comes back to knowing your local area and knowing subjects and what you might or might not be able to do with them. So let's take you through adjusting that gimbal. So I'm just using the thumb wheel on the left of the controller to bring the 90 degrees. We're going to turn it to around 45 degrees or so, and already you can see we're producing something very, very different just by angling the camera at 45 degrees or so. So here you can see in 65, 64, 60 degrees there. So you can see that the field that's next to the trees there are starting to come into view. So we need to reposition the drone and then get it somewhere different to create a different composition. So it looks as though the trees have been planted in roughly a straight line. So I'm going to just tilt the drone around. So you can start to see here that angle is making a huge difference. So let's bring the gimbal up again. So here we go, around 50 degrees or so. It's just about there. If I just bring the drone over again. So what you'll see here is by angling that gimbal, the camera, at a completely acute angle down towards the tree, we're able to create a more graphic looking image than we had before, just looking straight down at the tree canopy. Now I have to be careful because, as you can see flicking up on the screen there, it's saying there's strong wind, so I'm just going to be careful with what it is that I'm doing here. I'm just going to go to full screen mode so that I can see the image more clearly and what it is that I've got on the screen, and if there's any elements that don't please me. So in the top right hand corner it looks just a little bit scruffy, so I'll pull the camera back, I'll pull the drone back. So let's lose that. So we're starting to get more of just those lines of trees rather than the lines of trees and bits and pieces of what might be just regular woodland behind them. So as I said, you can see the difference that it makes. Now if I just bring the drone down, we might be able to get even more closer and even more graphic. So probably somewhere around there. And that's a more striking image. It's not an amazing image, but it certainly will demonstrate to you the difference of having that camera angle at more acute angle looking down rather than just top down or looking straight ahead or angling the camera just down just a little bit. So what I'm going to do is take a picture of that, and then that will demonstrate to you the difference between just a regular bird's eye view and then having that camera angle down more sharply. In the last segment with the plantation of trees, I was looking down with the drone around 45 degrees or so on my subject, and I want to do something similar here. And this is what you might recognize as where I started the tutorial, and I've come back because of that lone tree that's over there to my left. When I first found this, I looked at it just from the side of the road, and I knew that it would make a good picture just from the angle of the road. However, as soon as you send the drone up and start looking down onto it at quite a nice angle, you'll see the difference that it can make from up in the air. And there's a few other things in the field which I'll talk through when I've got the DJI app up onto the screen when I'm going through the composition. So talking of that app, let's just get the drone up and a little bit less waffle and show you what it is that I'm going to do with this tree. And I think you'll agree that the shot that I've got here, if hopefully the sun doesn't disappear too quickly, is very nice with this evening light. And again, just quickly talking to about that light, it is, as I said in the beginning, very much a part of your composition, as well as any rules that you might have, such as the golden mean or the rule of thirds. In any case, let's get the drone up in the sky and then let's see what we can do with it. Okay, so the drone is up in the sky, and as you can see already we've got a bit of a difference just by looking from ground level. From where the camera was angled when I was filming, you couldn't really see the tractor lines in the field. So what can we do with this particular subject? Well, there's various things that you can actually do with it. But what I want to demonstrate is this. So let's fly that drone towards the tree, and then I'll show you the last of the evening light. Okay, so what I'm going to do is now I'm going to push the drone up quite high in the sky, not too high. And what you'll start to see is more of those lines appearing from where the farmer has been in the field. Now let's angle that drone gimbal down. So let's put it around 30 degrees or so. And then you'll start to see how much more graphic those lines become. So if I start around there, let's go towards the tree and let's start angling things up and putting things into perspective where I feel that they should be. As you'll notice as well, when this tree starts to come into view, there's this really nice circle that's going around the tree. So let's get that drone just up a little bit higher, and again you can see more of those really nice leading lines coming in. Now what I'm going to have to do, if I can get rid of that quickly, is just pull down to full screen mode. Let's open up the exposure, pull the drone back, because again full screen mode is really going to help us compose where the image should be. I'm just going to turn the drone, push it to the right, and then pull back. And there you go, there's a very, very nice graphic image whereby we're using the tractor lines in the field. There's a lone tree, it's a slight bit of interest with that curve. I'm not putting the lines into each corner. For me, there's a supposed corner. I'm imagining there's actually a line in between the lines that are on the left-hand side and on the right-hand side that are pushing up through the image. But there you go, that should give you an idea of, again, what I was talking about with a plantation of trees, is that by angling the camera down around 30 to 45 degrees or so, we're able to create yet more striking images with our drone than we couldn't do as far as a digital SLR or mirrorless camera. Let's make sure that everything's in focus. So what I'm going to do is put the autofocus on, tap on the tree, tap it off. Then I'm going to make sure that my histogram is back. So as you can see there, the histogram is pulled over to the left. Let's pull it over to the right so it's got a bit more detail in there. Take the picture. That's probably going to be my final picture. Let's pull the down to full screen again. Let's pull it back. In the top left corner there, just a little bit of things that's just not really pleasing. In any case, let's just pull it back just again, maybe just angle the gimbal down. This is all what goes through my mind when I'm trying to create these images. This is why I'm showing you, so you can get an idea of what it is I'm thinking when I'm trying to create these particular drone images. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to make sure everything's in focus again. Put it back to full screen, make sure everything is there that pleases me, make sure everything is lined up as I wish it to be. So somewhere probably around there. Ever so gently pull the drone across. Maybe open up the exposure a little bit. What I'd like on the DJI drone, and isn't there, is to see the RGB values which I've got on my Canon 5D Mark IV. I'm trying to get as much detail as I can into that raw file. But in any case, what you can see there, the gimbal is pointing 34 degrees down from the normal 90 degrees towards the horizon. With all those lines in the field that we couldn't see at ground level, we're creating an image that's much more graphic and much more striking and much more interesting to anybody that's looking at this, our viewers. Let's move on to the next example. What I want to do with this particular segment is go back to top-down views again. And you might be thinking, well, surely I was done with top-down views. Well, not quite. I want to go back and just have a quick look at top-down views, but trying to create something more graphic with the particular view that I've got behind me. So you can see there's a field, lots of different fields behind me, as well as a lone tree. Now, I came here a couple of weeks ago, and if you follow me on Instagram, and I'll put a link up there to my Instagram, what you should see is this particular scene that I had captured. That was one Sunday afternoon, and as soon as I saw that picture, I just thought again that when I'm creating this particular tutorial, it would be a good idea to come back and put it into the tutorial and show you what it is that you can do if you recce an area properly and you get to know your local area. So in any case, let's send up that drone, let's show you what it is that I could do with this particular scene behind me and trying to create something more graphic using a top-down view, landscape photography wise, with a drone. The drone is up in the sky again, and as you can see, I've got a general view of the landscape here, which is, it's okay, but it's not really what I want. So what I'm going to do is press the button on the back of the controller to tilt the camera straight down, and then you should see what it was that I was alluding to. So here you've got the fields and the trees, and again, this is why I said you need to get to know your local area. I need to open up the exposure. So you can see there's different shades of green. So the field in the bottom right hand corner is the field that was directly behind me. Then there's the tree, that's a different shade of green again in that field. There's then the two fields on the other side of the road. The road then cuts a nice line through the image as well. And this isn't the final image, but it gives you an idea of just how much you can do just by searching around your local area and finding interesting things like this. So what I'm going to do is just try and get some of those corners going into the corners of the screen. Just wait till the car goes past. So if I pull down to go to full screen mode, what you should see there is something just a little bit different again with the top-down view. So I'm using the patterns in the field to create something a bit more graphic. Now you'll see in the bottom left-hand corner, there's a field, the two fields there coming out of the bottom left-hand corner. What I'm trying to do now is seeing if I can get the where the tractor's been going into the field into the bottom right-hand corner. So if I pull the drone back, then it starts to come in there very nicely. Let's push the drone to the right-hand side. So I just have to tilt the drone, do the yaw. And there we go, we're starting to create something just a little bit more graphic with our top-down photo using the fields here. So there you go, it's as I said, it's not the most amazing graphic kind of image, but as I said, it's just basically what you're looking at is something that by just getting to know your local area and playing with lines and playing with the roads and stuff like this. So I'm using a quiet country road here. You can see that I'm creating something just that little bit different than just your regular shot just looking straight across the landscape when I first started explaining this particular part of the video. So let's make sure that that tree is in focus. That's what my main point of focus is here. I'm going to turn off the autofocus again, make sure that I've got enough exposure in my image. That looks okay to me on the histogram. Again, this is why I need the histogram up there, and I'm going to have to be careful with the shutter speed. As you can see, it's flicking up there that there is some strong wind. That wind has been frustrating me this week as I've been wanting to get out and film this particular part of the tutorial. In any case, just wait till that car goes past, and the other one that's just going to go past in a minute, and then I'm going to get the photo that I want to. So let's pull down just a full screen mode so you can see what it is that I've got on a full screen, but I'll flick up the image anyway. So composition wise, I've got this kind of a diagonal going from the top to the bottom, but it's a nice sweep across there. There's a diagonal coming up from the bottom left hand corner going up towards the top right. There's the lines of the field whereby the tractor's gone through the field and is then pushing up again, so that's following the road up. There's all sorts of things going on in this image. That's the sort of thing that I look for when I'm trying to create a more graphic image with my drone. So let's move on to the next type of shot that we can do. So it's going to be a very, very simple shot. Well, kind of. It's very near to where we are right now. So I'm going to get the drone down and then I'll show you what it is that I've got for the final sequence. For this last segment, I've come just down the road from where I did the very sort of graphic view of looking down on the tree with the road coming down, sweeping down there, and I've come here. And you might be looking behind me and thinking, well, what again is so special about this road? And it does again come down to knowing your local area, doing a recce of it, looking at Google Earth, and seeing what it is that's around and seeing what it is that you might be able to do. Now behind me is a scene that I found a couple of weeks ago, and what I'm going to do with this particular one, this is going to be the last segment, is actually more of a general aerial view of the landscape that's behind me. And you'll see as soon as I put up the drone what it is that actually attracts me to this scene. There's a nice sweeping road and a few other things that really I look down and think, yep, that's actually a lot of different elements coming together that I've been talking about during this tutorial. So also what I'm going to do is, because there's some blue sky back there as well, I'm going to put on the Polar Pro polarizing filter onto the front of the drone and just polarize up the sky just a little bit more than it needs to in a way, but it always looks nice with a polarizer on there. So let's get that drone up and let's see what we can do with it. This is the scene that was behind me as I was filming. You can see the road there. As you can see, the drone from the screenshot, it's only 2 meters high or so, and already it's starting to do something different. Now, I mentioned the Polar Pro filters. Now what I've done is there's a polarizer on the front, and before I've set the drone going, I've turned the polarizer off of the drone so I can see where the polarization is at maximum, as I'd like some really nice saturated color here. As you've got that blue sky with the high cirrus clouds along with the green there in the fields. So what I want to do is now push the drone right up and let's see what we can do. And as you can see, just 6 meters high or so, 6.5 meters, you can now start to see why this scene started to interest me. So we've got the sweep of the road and the sweep of the fields with the tractor lines. Again, let's push up the drone, let's see what else we can do and what we can see. So now, as I go higher, 20 meters or so, you can see that the road sweeps around and we've got lots of nice lines everywhere and lots of nice graphic shapes. This is why the scene interests me. Now, as I've pushed the drone up higher, of course, I can see more things. I've got more of an angle on the road. So if I turn the drone, you can see here that I've got a nice sweep of the road. This is what I found the other day. So what I'm going to do, just elevate the drone just a little bit more. Then I'm going to bring down the gimbal, as I'd like it to be on the thirds. So I'm just going to do a classic rule of thirds image here. Boring to some maybe, but it always does work. No matter what we say, it does work. Just bring back the exposure. Again, let's go up. So here we go. This is a nice general view across the Val de Loire, the Loire Valley here. Now if I bring down to full screen again, I can see everything that I've got. So I have this nice sweep of the road, and I have to think, okay, what do I want in this? What do I not want in this? It's okay for what it is that I want. If I was being really pickish, that I would say on the bottom third, what I would like is a nice tree to break up and give some point of interest within the composition. But you know, it's pretty good for what it is that I want. There's lots of lines that are leading you into the picture. All those tractor lines that have been created by the farm around here, they're leading you from the left corner into the picture. You've got a diagonal coming down from the right that's resting on the top third there, coming down from the right. There's the sweep of the road. What I could do is bring the road more into the third of the image there, so it's then doesn't look so much of the field on the left hand side. So what I've done here is basically bring across the road onto the bottom third. It then sweeps over to the top third, and then I've got a nicely balanced image here. As I said, there could be some other elements in here that would really set this image going, but there's not. You know, it'd be nice to have a tree on the bottom right, bottom left hand corner, sorry, but it's not there. Just get rid of that warning sign there. So there you go. That's a nice general scene across the Loire Valley. Now, of course, there is a bit of exposure, overexposure on the top right, sorry, top left of the image. What can I do? As somebody, a very famous photographer told me a long time ago, when you look up at the sky, it's going to be paper white. Just leave it as paper white. Let's focus a third of the way into that image. Take off the autofocus, take a picture just before that car comes along. And that's the sort of general scene I might be looking at if I was to do a nice aerial picture there. Let's just bring it up just a little bit more, just a fraction more. So I'm just going to play with some of the lines just a little bit more. So you can see the nice evening light coming in. Again, what is something that I talked about in the beginning, where you're having that nice light. It's around 7:45 at the moment, mid-May. So I'm getting nice, really nice side light going across the image. I just open up the exposure just a little bit extra, take a picture. What I'm going to do is, just so I can maybe capture a little bit more of the blue that's in the sky, just bring it back just a little bit so I can actually blend two images together. So I'm maximizing the amount of exposure that I can get out of the drone and out of the filtration there. I want to create the best image that I can. So thinking of best images that I can, again, let's just pull across the drone somewhere, probably, I would say there. Now the reason that I'm doing that is so that I've got a nice sweep coming in almost from the middle, going across to the bottom right hand third, then sweeps across, and then it sweeps into the top left hand third, that point of interest. Again, let's take a picture. So I'm just going to open up the exposure. So I'm maximizing the exposure for the foreground. And let's take an exposure for the sky. Because I've got the histogram there, I can then see where it is that I'm getting the blue in the sky. So there is a bit of overexposure in the top left-hand corner. I'm not too worried about that. But you can see that nice cirrus cloud up there in the sky. So I should be able to create a really nicely balanced image. Now I do have some grads from Polar Pro, some soft grads that would really nicely graduate the sky. However, I do want the polarization rather than just a graduation here. So that's why I'm going to do an image blend with the drone here for the landscape photography image that I'm taking here. So there you go, that's the last image that I want to concentrate on. Just a general, what you would normally do if you're just sort of stood at ground level with your camera, your digital SLR or mirrorless camera, taking just a general landscape scene, but we just push the drone up. It is 53 meters high. That's the beauty of drones in landscape photography. It really does give us that extra point of view, another eye in the sky, that we can create much more graphic, much better images than we're able to do with a regular digital SLR or mirrorless camera. So there you go, there's a bit of an introduction to landscape photography using a drone, in my case a DJI Mavic 2 Pro. So as you've seen, I've taken you through various scenarios on how it is you might be able to photograph the landscape around you using a drone. I'd love to have shown you things like coastal photography with a drone, but living 4 hours or so away from the coast, it's just not quite practical for me to be able to do that. But in any case, hopefully you have enjoyed what it is that I've been doing, how I've been explaining these different things. You can of course keep up with me on social media with things such as Facebook. I have my own Facebook page. I also have an Instagram page which I'm updating more frequently than I used to, just to get more interest in what it is that I'm doing. And if you want to, I do have a newsletter which is available on my website at www.julianelliottphotography.com. And of course, if you're really interested in learning from me, then I do have a series of photography workshops that I run, or even one-to-ones if you're interested. But in any case, hopefully you've enjoyed what you've seen. If you haven't subscribed already, please do think about subscribing and clicking the bell that's up there in the top right hand corner. If you're an old-time subscriber, and I know there's many of you out there, thank you so much for being with me and keeping up with what it is that I do. There are many things that I do as a landscape and travel photographer. In any case, thanks so much, and see you again on the next tutorial or vlog, wherever that may be. See you again soon, and take care.